Hello viewers, welcome to the digital class of Udayanath Autonomous College of Science and Technology. So viewers, today's video will be all about a new topic or the expansion of our application layer. So in today's video we will be describing what are the protocols associated with application layer. So in today's video we will be describing different protocols that are actually working with application layer in order to transmit the data from sender to the receiver. So without wasting much of our time, let's move on to our slide, that is the protocols of application layer. So moving on to our first slide, that is application layer protocols. So there are several protocols which work for users in application layer. So as we have discussed earlier, that application layer is the topmost layer of OSI model which is very close to the users. That means user interact with different applications in application layer in order to get the data shared by the sender. So whenever the user is interested in downloading or accessing different applications, at that time there are different protocols which are associated with each applications. So application layer protocol can be broadly divided into two categories. So the first category is that protocols which are used by users, for example email, that means the users using the protocols are directly accessed by the users and they are emails and other mails, or let's say we can take the example of WhatsApp and Facebook, whichever is used to share the data. Those protocols are used by the users directly. The second category is protocols which help and support protocols used by users. That means there are some supporting protocols which actually support different protocols used by the users. For example, DNS. That means whenever the user is using the email in order to share or retrieve the data, at that time DNS is another protocol which actually govern the use of email by the users. So these are the two categories of application layer protocols. Now we will be moving to some of the application layer protocols which are associated with different applications. So as you can see that the first application is DHCP, which stands for Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, and it assigns the IP addresses whenever the sender is linked with the receiver. Second one is DNS, that stands for Domain Name System, which translates website names to IP addresses. Third is HTTP, which stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is actually used to transfer the web pages. Next one is NBNS, that is NetBIOS Name Service, which translates local host names to IP addresses. Similarly, SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, which sends the email messages. Next one is SNMP, which stands for Simple Network Management Protocol. It actually manages the network devices. Similarly, next one is SNTP, that stands for Simple Network Time Protocol. So it provides time of day. Similarly, we will be moving to next, that is Telnet. It is bidirectional text communication via a terminal application. Next one is TFTP, that is Trivial File Transfer Protocol, which is used to transfer small amounts of data. So these are some of the applications which are mostly used in the application layer, and these protocols behave accordingly, which we have discussed here, and it functions according to their requirement. So whenever whichever applications is required, at that time that protocol gets activated and they perform their task. Now we will be moving to the first category or the most important protocol that is linked with the application layer, that is DNS, which stands for Domain Name System. So an application layer protocols defines how the application processes running on different systems pass the message to each other. So whenever a user is interested in transferring or sending the data from one location to another location, so they have to define the application process through which the data can be passed from one location to another location. So this performance is actually done by the DNS. So the first point, DNS stands for Domain Name System. Then DNS is a directory service that provides a mapping between the name of a host on the network and its numerical address. That means it is a directory service. So as we have discussed that we have two servers, directory server and file server. So DNS is a directory service that provide mapping between name of host on the network and its numerical address. That means whatever address we are getting, that is IP address, is directly linked with the name of the host. So here we are giving a host name which is linked to a IP address. So whenever we will be calling the host name, so it will be redirected to its numerical address or IP address. So the third point is DNS is required for the functioning of the internet. That means the internet functioning is carried out by the DNS. That means DNS proves or it uses different protocols in order to make the internet properly functioning. So each node in a tree has a domain name, and a full domain name is a sequence of symbols specified by dots. So every node in a tree that contains inside the DNS has a domain name, and the full domain name is just a sequence of symbols which are specified by dots. That means whenever we will be elaborating the IP addresses, at that time the IP address is linked with the full domain name, and each domain name is a sequence of characters, symbols and numbers, and which are specified or they are distinguished by the dots. So DNS is a service that translates the domain name into an IP addresses. That means it is the service that actually links or translates the domain name into an IP address. So this allows the users of network to utilize user-friendly names when looking for other hosts instead of remembering the IP addresses. So it provides a better way or user-friendly way of using domain names instead of learning or remembering the IP addresses. So it is not possible for a user to use or remember the IP addresses each time they are linked to any host. So DNS provides a alternative method of learning or remembering the IP addresses. So it gives a domain name to a particular IP address. So without calling the IP address, we can call it through this domain name. So for example, suppose the FTP site at EduSoft has an IP address of 132.147.165.50. So most people would reach this site by specifying that ftp.edusoft.com. So therefore the domain name is more reliable than IP address. So here in this example you can clearly see that we have an IP address which is distinguished by dots. So it is not at all possible to remember the IP addresses of different websites. So in order to use the website name, we take the help of DNS, through which we will be naming the IP address through a name. So here you can see that if we are interested in moving to EduSoft website, at that time instead of using the IP addresses, we can directly specify ftp.edusoft.com. So whenever we will write ftp.edusoft.com, it will be redirected to the particular IP address which is linked to it. So instead of learning or writing the IP addresses, we can just specify the domain name. So next point is DNS is a TCP IP protocol used on different platforms. So the domain namespace is divided into three different categories, that is generic domains, country domains and inverse domains. So whenever we are transferring any data from one location to another location, at that time the most important protocol that is responsible for carrying the data and receiving the data is TCP IP. So DNS is directly linked to TCP IP in order to transfer the data from one location to another location. So in the meantime, domain name is divided into three different sections. The first section is generic domain, the second section is country domain, and the last is our inverse domain. So now we will be learning about each domain briefly. Now moving on to the next slide, you can clearly see the image over here that are the three sections of domain name system. So the first section is inverse domain, then comes our generic domains, then comes our country domains. So you can see that there are a lot of inverse domain along with a lot of generic domains, and a list of country domains which constitute to form a domain name system. Now we will be learning more about inverse, generic and country domains. Now the first category or the first section of domain name system is generic domain. So it defines the registered host according to their generic behavior. That means there are a lot of hosts which govern certain clients and they need to be registered with the clients. So it defines the registered host in order to give them service to the clients. So the next point is each node in a tree defines the domain name which is an index to the DNS database. So it defines each node or every node of a tree which contains a domain name, and each index of the domain name is stored in the DNS database. Similarly, it uses 3 character labels, and these labels describe the organization type. So every index of DNS that has been stored in the database uses 3 character label, and these label actually define or they describe what type of organization they are dealing with. So the next category or the next section of DNS is country domain. So the format of country domain is same as generic domain, but it uses 2 character country abbreviations. For example, US for United States. Similarly, we can take IN for India. So in place of 3 character organization abbreviations. So the country domain is the special section or special category of DNS which is actually used to demonstrate to which country it belongs to. So let's take an example like US stands for United States, UK stands for United Kingdom, IN stands for India. So instead of using 3 character organizational abbreviations, it uses 2 characters in order to define a particular country it is dealing with. The last one is our inverse domain. So the inverse domain is used for mapping an address to a name. That means whenever we are dealing with any IP address, so that IP address must be linked to a DNS or domain name. So that name is linked with the IP address through the inverse domain only. So when the server has received a request from the client and the server contains the file of only authorized clients, to determine whether the client is on the authorized list or not, it sends a query to the DNS server and asks for mapping an address to the name. So whenever inverse domain comes into action, so it first gives an authorization to the client. That means whenever client is requesting something from the server, so it first checks whether the client is authorized or not. So if the authorized client is registered, then only the host will give them response, and it is only possible because of DNS server. So DNS server asks for mapping and name to the IP address, and after successful authentication it maps or it links the name to the address. So instead of calling the IP address, so we can call the address or we can link the website through its domain name. So these are the 3 main and the 3 categories of domain name system, that is generic domain, country domain and inverse domain. Now the second most important protocol is our simple mail transfer protocol, that is SMTP. So SMTP stands for Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. So SMTP is a set of communication guidelines that allow software to transmit an electronic mail over the internet, that is called as Simple Mail Transfer Protocol. So SMTP is just a communication guideline. So it allows the software in order to transfer the email over the internet. So it is a program which is used for sending the messages to other computers that are used based on email addresses. So whenever we are dealing with email addresses or we are sending email to different locations, at that time SMTP gets activated. So it's a program which is actually used for sending the messages over the emails to different email addresses. So it provides an email exchange between users on the same or different computer, and it also supports, it can send a single message to one or more recipients. That means whenever we are using SMTP, there are different facilities which are provided by the SMTP. So the first facility is that a single message can be sent to one or more recipients. That means on a single click we can be able to send a single message to a lot of users. So the second facility is sending messages can include text, voice, video or graphics. That means there are no restrictions on the type of messages. So the message type can be text, it can be voice, it can be video or it may be graphics. So whatever message we are sending, it is not dependent on the type of messages that we are dealing with. So the third one is it can also send the messages on networks outside the internet. That means whenever we are dealing with any messages and we are sending any messages, so it does not depend on a particular network. That means it can work outside the internet also. So the main purpose of SMTP is to set up communication rule between the servers. That means whenever we are dealing with sending the data from one location to another location, at that time SMTP is used to set up the communication rule between the servers. So the servers have a way of identifying themselves and announcing what kind of communication they are trying to perform. That means whenever we are linking the clients with the servers, or we are dealing with some rules or communication rules in order to govern the server, at that time the server have a way of identifying themselves and they try to perform what type of communication they are going to give. So they also have a way of handling the error such as incorrect email addresses. That means whenever we are dealing with email addresses, at that time also SMTP gives a way of handling different type of error in order to give or in order to correct or rectify the incorrect email addresses. So for example, if the recipient address is wrong, then the receiving server reply with an error of some kind. That means whenever we are giving any wrong address of the receiver, at that time the receiving server would again give an error message of different kind to in order to rectify the recipient address. That means whenever we are giving any wrong data or wrong addresses, the message will come to the user that they have given the wrong address, and in this way we can correct the type of error which we have encountered. So these are some of the facilities that are provided by the simple mail transfer protocol. Now you can see the image over here that denotes the SMTP, that is simple mail transfer protocol. So you can see two users at different location. So one user is acting as a client and another user acts as a server. So you can see that the user is not directly connected to the internet. So they are connected through SMTP client and SMTP server. So the user on the client side gets connected to the SMTP connects it to the internet sends the message to the SMTP server, and then the SMTP server gives the message or delivers the message to the user at the server side. Similarly, the vice versa process takes place. So in this way, the user at the client side and server side gets connected through the internet through the help of SMTP. Now we will be moving to the next protocol that is very important, that is file transfer protocol or FTP. So FTP stands for file transfer protocol. So FTP is a standard internet protocol provided by TCP IP used for transmitting the files from one host to another. So whenever there is a requirement of sending a file from one host or from one server or from one node to another node, at that time FTP gets activated. So it is considered as a standard internet protocol and it is being provided by the most important protocol, that is TCP IP. So it gets activated whenever we are in a requirement of transmitting a type of file from one node to another node. So it is mainly used for transferring the web page files from their creator to the computer that acts as a server for other computer on the internet. So it is mainly used while we are sending the files from one web page to another web page. So whenever we are interested in sending a file from a web page, or we are in a need of downloading the file from a web page, at that time FTP gets activated. So FTP allows the server to upload or download a file on the internet. So it is used for downloading the files to computer from other server. So whenever we are in a requirement of downloading any type of file, so it can be image file, it can be text file, it can be video file or anything. So whatever file we are dealing with or we are interested in downloading the file, at that time FTP gets activated. That means FTP is the only protocol which helps in dealing with the files, whether it can be uploading or downloading it from the server. So now we will be moving to what are the objectives of FTP. So the main objective of FTP is it provides the sharing of files. So whenever we are interested in sending a file from one place to another place, at that time FTP gets activated. So it can be email, it can be Facebook, it can be WhatsApp or anything. So whenever we are on a network and we are dealing with sending or sharing of file, at that time FTP gets activated. So without FTP we cannot attach a file or we cannot share a file with other computer or systems. So it is used to encourage the use of remote computer. That means whenever a server is connected with clients, so the clients or the nodes which are connected, it allows the client to share the FTP or share the files through the FTP. So it transfers the data more reliably and efficiently. So whenever we are just simply typing any message, at that time FTP does not get activated. At that time only SMTP, that is simple mail transfer protocol, gets activated. But whenever we are attaching any type of file, at that time SMTP along with FTP gets activated, because there are some text messages along with one file attached to it. So whenever there is a concept of sharing any type of file in the email or Facebook or WhatsApp or any server, at that time FTP gets activated, and due to FTP only the files can be shared with other servers or hosts. So in this way FTP helps to share the files to different locations. Now you can see the image over here that denotes the connection between the client and server through FTP. So there is a FTP client and there is FTP server. So whenever a request is sent from FTP client to FTP server, that is called as control connection. That means whenever a client is requesting something from the server, at that time control connection takes place. Similarly, whatever request is encountered by the FTP server, it gives equal type of response to the FTP client, and that is called as data connection. So always client gets connected to the server through control connection, and server fulfills the client required data through data connection. So the two processes takes place between client and server. So whenever it is client to server, it is called as control connection, and whenever it is from server to client, it is called as data connection. So in this way FTP performs their task by sending the data between the client and server. So I hope you have all understood what are the protocols of application layer. We have clearly discussed what is domain name system, that is DNS, simple mail transfer protocol, that is SMTP, how SMTP works, what is the work of FTP, that is file transfer protocol, and what is HTTP, that is hypertext transfer protocol. So I hope you have all understood all these protocols briefly. So if you have any doubt, you can comment me on our YouTube channel. Till then, have a good day. Thank you.